All right, so here we are at the second part of the presentation that I've put together for the Great Books of the Western World. Hopefully by now you've read part one and also gone over that list of the great books and looked those over and done the Jamboard that I prepared. Hopefully it at least started some good discussions and just kind of gave us some points to start from. So next, I am going to talk a little bit about kind of what other folks thought of the great books when they were published. I put a little information here, the author of several books, but Norman Davies specifically brought up the great books of the Western world in his book, Europe History. And so I just thought these were a few kind of interesting facts. And kind of my 2 cents on this is that, to be fair, it is called Of the Western World. Adler and Hodgkins were traditionalists, and so they chose very specifically, with the intention in mind, the importance of some of those originals, Socrates, etc. So today, those lists look a lot different, and lots of people have written their version of these lists. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there, and if you're interested, you can look more into Norman Davies and some of his writing. Also, I want to note that this piece of art that I am displaying is not my own. So then I also wanted to talk a little bit about what that means to adult education now. When we think of philosophy in the great books, I believe that regardless of our opinions of the books on the list, that Adler's and Hodgkin's goal was to make literature more accessible to the general public by selling the publications as a collection. From housewives to the working class, Britannica sold them door to door for a reasonable price, so they were more readily available to those who maybe couldn't go to college and didn't have that opportunity to read those books. I believe that this is an essential part of the idea of liberal education. The idea that we want to promote a societal well-being and enhance that individual effectiveness within society is really what liberal education is all about, right? And so I have this quote that I found on the PAEI inventory website, and it states, "Liberal arts education has been the predominant approach in Western society. The philosophy dates back to the Greeks, where the approach was used to create a population which was intelligent, informed, cultured, and moral." And so I think that kind of resonates back to the idea of Adler wanting to put some of those great philosophers of the Greek and Latin history, in this list. I also wanted to talk a little bit about kind of where I saw the relevance of these books now, or at least the idea and the reason behind putting them into publication. And I see that as being the internet. We now have the internet, and we can literally find any information that we want. Again, housewives, the rich, the indigent, more and more third world countries every day have more accessibility to the internet and to this information. And, regardless of, race, gender, class, whatever, whether it's in their home or in a community center of some kind, they're going to have this access in most places. With sites like, and I guess what I have dubbed as YouTube University, because I tried to search it and see where it had come from. And I would love if any of you know maybe who coined it before me, because I feel like I did not make that up. But with these sites like YouTube, Skillshare, LinkedIn Learning, Autodesk University, and Adobe certifications, anyone can literally get a great job without a degree if they take the time to get some of these certifications. And, they look good on your resume whether you have that degree to back it up or not, or just to learn for themselves for the sake of learning. So I shouldn't say the last thing. I have a couple of questions. So one, just for fun, what was the last thing that you learned from just a random search on the internet? And then, last but not least, kind of my final thought. And hopefully this will open up a larger discussion going forward. And I learned it from the internet, so it must be true, right? Is a kind of a joke phrase that we hear all the time, making fun of or picking at people who, take something that they read off of a Twitter post or something, and take it to be literal fact. Is that versus, an old man biasly talking about a topic more harmful than the other? I'd like to see kind of what people think. Yeah, so feel free to add your 2 cents on that final thought in the discussion.